Hi, my name's Gabrielle Jones. I'm an artist, predominantly a painter and a drawer, and I use oil, acrylic, watercolour, and mixed media and collage. Lately, I've been doing a lot of work with the collage, both in oil painting and with my works on paper. So welcome to my studio, and yes, I'm mostly painting glasses. And today you'll see some of my processes behind the scenes, sneak peek, and also how my studio is set up. Come on. My studio is purpose-built and is underneath my home and consists of 2 rooms. I have an inviting breakout room to make me want to go into the studio. I usually enter into the painting room past sorted oils and acrylics to see 2 quotes that keep me on track in my work. The first is by Andy Warhol. And the second by the critic Robert Hughes. I also have my own studio mantra: trust, play, be brave. In my studio, there is a central, large, portable table which I use as a palette and which keeps everything I need at hand. I have notes to remember ways of painting and images of past work for inspiration. I have a large easel for very large paintings, a portable table, and the usual found studio chair. There's also the painter's best friend, lots of rags. My oil paints get so dirty in the heat of creation, I have to cover them with foil. Most I can't read the colours on the tube, so its colour recognition and selection is basically intuitive. I have to say my preference is really for oil paint, and I mostly finish paintings in acrylic with an oil layer. I love the slippery, slidey effect and the translucent colours it makes. Like just about every painter I know, I have so many brushes, some from the art supplies, most from the hardware, and even wallpaper brushes. I actively seek out strange and interesting brushes because they make strange and interesting marks on my paintings. Just about the first thing I do when I walk into the studio is put on my music and then tie my hair up and put my apron on. It gets really messy in this studio, and I've got lots of pairs of pants and shirts with paint on them from not putting my apron on in the first place. Gloves are also very necessary from an OH&S point of view, but also so that I don't transfer paint from one area of a painting to another. I just flip my gloves off. Medium is used with paint to make it move more easily, but I also do lots of glazes, so that means there's a small amount of paint in thick medium when it comes to oil paint, and it allows light to be trapped in a painting. It can enhance the colours, but it also can change the colours underneath. I'm currently hanging my work on skirt hangers to allow me to be able to move them around the studio, and because there is always a shortage of storage and display room in a studio, this also allows me to stack them once they're dry. Sometimes in a work, I do the background first, encouraging patterns and the drip of the paints, or working back with brush strokes. before I lay down the collaged pieces of paint on canvas. I usually lay the collaged pieces on the floor to see how the form will develop, and sometimes place them directly onto the canvas without being painted first. They're always laid on with painter's tape, and sometimes it's directly the piece onto an already painted, almost finished canvas. I then usually add some painted elements to the canvas of patterns that I'm copying from something, or freeform items like a checkerboard. I find that this shakes up the perception of space in the work. Sometimes it's done standing or sitting at an easel or squatting. The squatting's pretty hard on the body. I really like the depth you can achieve between a painted surface and a flattened added piece of canvas, which in itself has a wonderful texture. I also really enjoy the meditative quality of doing detailed work. My current work was made in and out of lockdown and symbolises the widespread desire for release from confinement imposed under protective orders and the absolute joy of the small freedoms. The still wet artworks are then removed to the drawing room to dry. As sensual experience gains importance when in isolation, I have deliberately exaggerated the sensual elements of texture, colour and patterns, interweaving them in a dance of risk and control, striving to elicit the joy in life. Now in the second room, the drawing room, I have a lot of storage for paintings either drying or waiting to be worked on further. This is also where paintings will be stored before delivery to a gallery. I'm lucky enough to have a really nice shady breakout area for coffee and to take my eyes away from the work, and a pool for a quick dip on those hot Queensland afternoons. I also like to display work here and to spend time contemplating it before it is considered finished. It was the drawings that influenced the making of these new paintings. I was trying to push gestural abstraction and decided that brushstrokes and mark making were the most basic of painting and the most human elements of it, as opposed to a digital world we live in. And I decided to concentrate on them. They became the living, breathing things. They often took on human attributes, and I saw how this bid for freedom from their background kind of reflected the COVID lockdown reality. So I developed the paintings and developed these artworks as almost 3D, or at least as 3D as possible. While working in my studio, I really try to leave my critic's hat alone, put it aside, so that anything and everything goes. And in the end, it's really up to the viewer to decide if something worked or didn't. I'm Gabrielle Jones, and thanks so much for joining me on the studio tour.